1979, and America was suffering at home and abroad.
National Gay and Lesbian Task
made us
Force,
feel penniless, and Iranian fanatics left us feeling powerless. I'm John Palmer, and this is Discovery Journal. It was against that backdrop of economic and political turmoil that Ronald Reagan campaigned for the presidency, promising us a bright new horizon. But there was something else on the horizon then, something dark, mysterious, and deadly. That something was AIDS. And in the years since it first was detected, almost 200,000 Americans have died.
Listen very carefully.
More worldwide are now infected with HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. A time of AIDS is a story of an epidemic unlike any in history. It's an extraordinary tale full of intrigue, jealousy, genius, and stupidity, exhilaration, and despair. Our story begins in 1979. For the next 2 hours, what you'll see is not fiction, but the actual story of how the fatal virus first appeared, why it continues to spread, and how the human response has altered the course of the epidemic, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. It was the end of a decade, and the dawning of a new morning in America. 1979 was quietly fading out when people first began to worry. Around the corner, something was waiting that would change the world forever. Young men started getting sick with illnesses doctors couldn't cure. There was great puzzlement. People would come in with swollen glands, high fevers, fatigue. As the first cases appeared in New York and Los Angeles, doctors began frantically exchanging worried calls. They were baffling and they were somewhat scary. They didn't respond to treatment at all. The medical community began searching desperately for a cause as young men simply wasted away. I'm really very, very concerned. Several of the patients have died. Over the next 10 years, millions of people would grapple with fear and prejudice as politicians stumbled and medical science faltered. This is the story of a deadly disease, a plague. It starts with a social and sexual revolution that ignited in the 60s, a time of passionate liberation. And among young people, liberation meant free love. And for one group in society, homosexuals, the era was also a political awakening. The new moral climate inspired lawmakers as well. History was made as laws prohibiting homosexuality were repealed in some states. The lives of gay men were about to change.
In 1950, when we were in high school, was to be a criminal, evil, and to practice it could get you arrested.
Many gay men now view sexual freedom as a legitimate expression of political rights.
All of us had grown up being told everything we thought and wanted was, evil and sick, and suddenly there's this island of beautiful, intelligent, and incredibly sexy men, all available to each other 24 hours a day. It was truly the linchpin of our sexual liberation, having been sexually oppressed.
Escaping oppression, many gays moved to big cities. In San Francisco, their numbers rapidly increased from 10,000 to 120,000 in less than a decade.
I felt part of the most extraordinary sexual experiment in human history. I honestly believe this. Never before in human history had so many men had so much sex with so many other men who were having sex.
Fire Island in New York was a small coastal community that exploded with party-loving vacationers during the summer months. It became the mecca of gay liberation. Jerry Rosenbaum was a Wall Street stockbroker with a six-figure income. At work, in his gray suit, no one knew
about myself, and that having sex wasn't something dirty or that I had to hide somewhere. Fire Island was a Belle Epoque for me. It was the high point of my life of coming of age. For the first time, we're in our space. We're on our turf. This is our place. And if you don't like it, get out of my face. You tell me I can't have sex. You tell me I can't even be gay. That's not true. I can be gay, and I can have sex. People came in from everywhere to find out what it was really like at Fire Island. It was seductive. It was intoxicating. And the glue that held it all together was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That was our story.
It was a brief bit of time that was about to end.
Sexual smorgasbord like the world has never seen, and a very heady experience from a liberation point of view, very thrilling to be among all those beautiful men, and it was a very short time before that all came crashing to an end, just as we had discovered it and tasted it. It took this very sinister historical turn.
In San Francisco, all cases of sexually transmitted diseases had to be reported to the health department. In the mid-70s, the reports landed on the desk of Dr. Selma Dritz. She noticed an alarming increase in the number of sick gay men, some of them harboring unusual infections.
For instance, amoebic dysentery, we had maybe 10 cases in a year, and most of them were coming back either from an ashram in India or Tijuana or in Mexico, something like that. By 75, 76, we were having almost 1,000 cases a year of amoebic dysentery, and they were concentrated 90% in gay men.
San Francisco's Castro Street was at the center of gay social life. At first, Dr. Dritz thought that one of the restaurants there might be the source of so many infections. She ran tests, but they came back negative. In particular, the bathhouses were a popular meeting spot. Dr. Dritz decided to ask some difficult questions.
I didn't go to the bathhouses myself, but my inspectors went in, and they brought back a report that would have curled my hair if I hadn't already curled it. They weren't using the baths for bathing, believe me, and anything could be transmitted, and it was.
Michael Callan was 20 when he left home. In the small Ohio town he grew up in, homosexuality was viewed as immoral. His new lifestyle in the big city soon brought its first mild inconvenience, a case of gonorrhea.
I was still very much a small town boy from the Midwest, and I felt unclean, and I just felt really creepy. But all of my friends said, oh, please, the clap, no problem, just get your shot, go back out. It's just a risk you take. It's not a big deal. It's not fatal. By the end of my sexual career in 1980, every single time I had sex, I got something. So at the age of 26, I had to face the fact that I'd had sex with about 3,000 men, and I'd had hepatitis A, hepatitis B, hepatitis non-A, non-B, herpes simplex 1 and 2, Shigella endemoeba, histolytica, giardia, syphilis, gonorrhea, nonspecific urethritis, CMV, EBV, venereal warts.
On Fire Island, that was a typical story. Sexual liberation had its minor yet easily curable drawbacks. But late in 1979, 3 young men visited their doctors with complaints that did not fit the usual pattern. One of them was referred to cancer specialist Dr. Linda Lovenstein. She was puzzled by the dark spots on the young man's skin and asked the advice of dermatologist Dr. Alvin Friedman Keene. As it turned out, Dr. Friedman Keene was already busy with a similar patient.
A young man who had some peculiar lesions on his legs and on his face came to see me for a diagnosis. I'd never seen anything quite like it, and I decided to do a biopsy. And within 2 days, when the biopsy specimen was returned to me with a diagnosis of Kaposi sarcoma, I was quite shocked.
Kaposi sarcoma is a rare form of skin cancer, normally found in older men of Mediterranean origin.
Another young man came to see me who was perfectly healthy except for for these purple-brown spots on his skin again. And at that point I realized, having seen 2 cases in such a short period, that I was dealing with something most unusual. Dr. Friedman.
Now you know, people, why we have the AIDS crisis. This is a videotape that I taped, and 93 people listen and learn. God bless.